All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Synergy Community Power 30. We are very glad and honored today to have with us Ms. Tiffany Banks as our Power 30 guest today. And I'm going to start by just doing a quick intro of you, Tiffany, and then anything I leave out, you can go ahead and add in there. Tiffany she is a graduate of Thomas Jefferson School of Law, and she has served as the general counsel for the Nevada Realtors for more than 8 years now. And she also serves on the board for Big Brothers, Big Sisters, the Young Lawyers section of the Nevada Bar, and the Association of Corporate Counsel. She also has some really interesting things in her background, including something here, and you're going to have to tell us what this is all about, Tiffany. It says in your bio that you were a production assistant on a TV show and a Secret Service staffer who helped guard President Bush shared his red licorice with you. So we're interested to hear what that's about for sure.
Thanks, Cody. Good morning. So I've had a lot of different interesting jobs that have gotten me to where I am today to be your attorney for the State Association of Realtors. Every time I think about like my past and all of these awesome jobs that I've had, and yes, I did share licorice with President Bush Sr. He and his wife were in matching outfits, and it was at a retreat in San Diego that they were at. It comes back to what's been my most favorite thing that I've done and my most favorite job. And it is representing you all as realtors. We advocate for private property rights for the state of Nevada. So we don't just look out for everything that has to do with you guys and your chapter of law, but your homeowners, anybody that owns property in Nevada, the landlords. We advocate for all of those interests. And I think that sometimes I think our members don't know that like we watch everything. So everything from construction bills to short-term rentals to, again, if it affects you and your chapter, like licensing, but we watch it all. And so I'm hoping today I can kind of get through some of the bills that happened this session. And if there's time, because I heard you stick to a very strict 30 minutes, if there's time, we can maybe get into some of our other hot topics, or I'm happy to come back again at another time and run through those as well.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So what I'd like to do is start today with the basics, because as we were preparing for this Power 30, I actually was a little confused on this. And so the basics are not always just the basics. I know that Las Vegas Realtor Association, which is our local association of realtors in Las Vegas, we had an in-house attorney, Dave. And then at one point I was told that we were now going to have outside counsel. And I thought I was even in a meeting at one point where some of those people came into one of those meetings. And so I was confused because I thought you were those outside counsel. I've now learned that no, you are general counsel for Nevada Realtors. So give us a quick breakdown of LVR, Nevada, National Association of Realtors. How does that all fit together?
Okay, thanks for asking. So we have the National Association of Realtors, and they handle all of your federal issues, and we are involved with them. I don't want to say on a daily basis, but we're constantly communicating with them on national issues. So if there's anything to do right now, for example, with like 1031 like in kind exchanges or flood insurance or the federal eviction moratorium, nationals handling that at the national level. We're communicating with them. We're in these like work groups with these other attorneys from across the state or from across the country. And then you have the state association. So we have over 20,000 members, and it's comprised of the 5 local associations. And so your local associations, which are Marcella and Elko, you guys in Vegas, we have Reno Sparks, we have SNR, SNR, which is Sierra Nevada, which is like Carson, and then Incline. And so the locals usually handle stuff like forms at the bigger ones. So they have their own forms. They do continuing education. And then at the state level, we do all of your statewide advocacy. So we are in constant communication with the local associations, their board members, or a lot of our board members. We all have the same members. So if that makes sense, but we cover the state on bigger issues, if that makes sense. But we also work on the local issues. So in Vegas, if there's a short-term rental issue, our lobbyists are attending all of those meetings. We're in communication because it does affect you on a statewide level at some point. I also run our Leadership Academy, which I've been lucky enough to have Marcella as our dean last year. And so that's also a statewide program that selects 16 realtors from across the state. They go through a year of professional and personal development, and hopefully then they serve on boards and like become community leaders even more than they already are. One of the awesome state benefit is we have what's called a legal information line. You can call Crystal. She's our legal information line attorney, and she'll give you her legal opinion. She drafts a ton of articles. We do videos. And so if there's, you're in the middle of a transaction and your buyer wants to cancel for whatever reason, you want to know what their grounds are. She doesn't actually give legal advice where you can, because you don't have attorney-client privilege because there's only two of us for 20,000 of you, but we walk you through the scenarios. We just give you our best opinion because we hear it all day, every day. If we tell you what would happen if you go in front of a real estate commission on a certain issue. So I'm going to give you that number, or I'll throw it in the chat, and also that email, because again, it's a great member benefit, and you can call and talk to her or myself almost about any issue that comes up at any time. And we'll tell you if it's something that's like out of our scope, where your client really just needs an attorney, like to hire an attorney.
Yeah.
But oftentimes it's, somebody died on the property. What do I have to disclose? Or this was discovered after an inspection. What does my client have to disclose? What do I have to disclose? Can my client write a love letter to, you know what a love letter is, Cody? Okay.
I do, and I love them, actually. Okay. I'm sad that we don't have that freedom anymore.
So it's, so then that would be a call to us, can I write a love letter, and what does that look like? And so I'm just naming a few things, but it's almost any type of issue that could arise during a transaction. You can call us, we'll give you an opinion. And I think it's been a great member benefit, and it's a great,
so let's have you put that in the chat, but if you could also just say it verbally, because this will be viewed by a lot of our group on replay and they won't have the benefit of the chat. Okay. What is that number?
Our number is 800-748-6999. And then the email is info@nvrealtors.org.
Okay, and you're putting that, okay, good. Those are both in the chat. So 800-748-6999 or infoline@nvrealtors.org.
Yes.
Very good. So that was actually one of the things I was going to ask you about today. I recently took a CE class from our very own Tamara Tabusa in Synergy, which I love taking CE from her. And she shared with us what she called the Legal Hotline. So this is the same as that, correct?
Absolutely. So yes, this is the Legal Hotline. So
okay.
Yeah, so if you were to call Las Vegas realtors and ask them, like say, oh, I have a question about this contract, or a question about this form, or what does this mean, they always send you to us. But again, like to your point earlier, you didn't even know where you were probably being sent if they were to send you, but you're being sent to the state.
Okay.
To answer your question.
Yeah, that's great to know. So so I want to go back to that for just a second here, because another thing that a lot of realtors, especially new realtors, are confused about is, how does this fit in with the Nevada Real Estate Division and with the commission?
Okay, great question. So the Nevada Real Estate Division, that's your licensing body. So oftentimes when you call me, or call Crystal, like I'm gonna say, like, I'm not the one that's gonna get you in trouble. I'm the one that's gonna like keep you out of trouble. So the practices, the best practices and opinion that I'm gonna give you is so that you don't end up in front of the real estate commission. And so the real estate division is your licensing body. We work very closely with the real estate division as well on all issues. And one bill that I'll get into this morning it was a bill that we actually carried this session, meaning our resources ran this bill, but it benefited the real estate division because then again, it benefits you all and your industry. So that the real estate division is your licensing body. They're the ones that tell you how many continuing education credits to get. They're the ones that make sure that you're in compliance with Chapter 645, with your advertising, with how you use your license number now on your advertising, like anything to do with regulation. They're like the regulatory body. They meet 4 times a year. Oftentimes when they're in person, you can also get CE credit by attending their meeting, and they're really interesting to attend and actually like see what cases are before them and how they rule. So they come out with this guide. I think it's called Open House, and that goes through and tells you each, I think it's like quarterly, what types of cases they heard. And a lot of times the cases have to do with property management. Like historically over the years, that's the majority of cases are like trust fund accounting but I mean, you do have cases that are settled, so you don't get to hear, but it is interesting to see what other agents are called in front of the commission for. And the commission then is a body of your peers. So it's 5 brokers that make up the commission, and they hear the case, and the division gives a recommendation. Like I would find, person X in violation of this, and this. And my suggested fine is $30,000, $10,000 per violation. And the commissioners hash it out, and they either come up with their own, they go with what the division says, or they, like dismiss the case. So it's really up to the commissioners then how they're going to rule. And so, for instance, with escalation clauses, that's an issue that I'll get a call and, and I'll say, I can't point you to somewhere in statute that escalation clauses are illegal. Like I can't say NRS this, and I like to say NRS this because then I have backup for why I'm saying something. But what I will say for something like that is, but the commission has found historically that using escalation clauses has been a violation of fair dealing. And so we recommend against it. So our best practice then would be don't use them. Why? Not because of the law, but because the commission may find that it's a violation of fair dealing and fine you up to $10,000 per violation. And so that's how, again, the interplay of how all of that works.
Okay, and so just to bring that full circle so we can kind of move on to some of the other things then, the role you play now for our different local associations, is that the same role that Dave Sanders used to do for LVR? Like he was kind of the in-house person there?
No. So I mean, I guess I'm in-house for the state, but like he and I would communicate all of the time over, this is what's going on a form. I would give my opinion, he would give his, but he's the one for your local that would sit in hearings for you all. I don't do any of that because again, there's only like 1 or 2 of us for the whole state. And he was more like, like creating the form, sitting in on committees on my local, and then I do that for the state. So we're different like entities.
Okay, so is that true then what I was saying in the beginning, that our LVR must have some local outside counsel?
They do. So they never replaced him in-house. They decided to just have an outside counsel that comes in and sits in on their grievance committee hearings and works on their contracts. So yes, they have somebody outside that does that. And many, there's no local association besides Las Vegas had an in-house attorney. They all had outside counsel as needed on like an as needed basis. But for us, we just have way too many things going on like all the time, every day, to have like for the state to have outside counsel. And now if we
Okay.
were to work on a huge project, then we would have to. But
Okay.
otherwise, it's like for me, I handle the day-to-day things. There's always something that's coming up.
Yeah. All right. Excellent. Thank you for all those
Yeah.
explanations. I know some people in our group probably already knew all about that stuff, but you know, I'm fairly experienced realtor and it still is a little bit foggy
Yeah.
for me. So I'm hoping it was helpful for other people. You mentioned that you have a few things from this last session that you think would be interesting for us to hear. So let's jump into some of that. What's something that was interesting that you think would be good for us?
So the first bill that I'll touch on has to do with the real estate division. So, we've heard, and maybe let me just give you a brief background. So when I say we, I'm not just coming up with good ideas and with our CEO and with our lobbyists. It's actually, you have your local legislative committees. So you have all your local associations have a legislative committee that say these are issues in our area. They tell us on a statewide level, and then you have a committee of a bunch of realtor members from all over the state that decide on what issues are the most important. And then they guide us for sessions. So one of the things was, they felt like the real estate division was really antiquated or out to date on their technology. And for as many of you as there's, over 20,000 of you realtor members, like how is the division still operating, like in an antiquated way. So our goal was to get the division up to the 20th, hopefully 21st century with the passage of this bill. So this bill actually increases your what you pay to the division by $15, 15 every 2 years on your renewal. And it's completely earmarked for technology. So as part of the passage of this bill, another bill was brought forward, and there's actually about $600,000 to $700,000 allocated to jumpstart the technology, the database, like getting everything super up to date, so that your $15 every 2 years can be to maintain that. And so that's a bill that we carried essentially on their behalf, and then that passed. So if you renew it as of August or later, and it takes a lot for us to ever want to increase your dues or increase any sort of fees with the division, you'll rarely find us like supporting and much less running a bill like that. But it was so needed and so needed for so long that it was a bill that we carried this session. We knew that a lot of landlord tenant issues would be coming up and be in a lot of these bills because, as the eviction moratoriums were renewed time and time again. And you all were actually able to stay an essential business during the entire COVID time, even though you had to do things differently. And a lot of that comes from like our work with the powers that be, essentially, because a lot of states, you guys were shut down in many states for a period of time. And so for us, we wanted to keep you guys essential, even if you had to do business a certain way, meaning you couldn't enter tenant occupied properties or you had to do open houses in a certain way, but we still wanted you to be able to conduct your business. So we knew, because of that kind of work that was done in the interim, that we were going to see a ton of landlord tenant bills. And right away we did. And I don't know how many, do you have a good number of property managers? Or do you have any property managers?
I don't think we do, but I know that that's been a big hot topic for a lot of
Yeah.
property owners because of the landlord tenant laws.
Yeah, so absolutely. So even if you're not a property manager, if you own property or you have investors or you have owners that want to sell and have a tenant in and don't know if they can get a tenant out, all of these issues impacted you all. I won't go into the weeds on like all the different bills though, since there's not property managers. But we also knew, and I'm just going to run through, Cody, I'm just going to kind of give a fire hose of information right now, and then stop me or interrupt me at any time. But, we knew that we had a target on our back, essentially, and that we would see issues that would have to do with short-term rentals, HOAs, property taxes, electrification of utilities, which means that we would be off the natural gas grid by 2050. That was a proposed bill that ended up dying. We knew that there would be the real estate commission composition that would be brought up, inclusionary zoning, discrimination in housing. And so we just slowly in 120 days worked through a lot of these bills. One other bill that would be important to you all that came up right when we walked into the building, and it was a bill that we carried, has to do with the SRPD. So you all know that you've never ever been allowed, or you never should fill out the SRPD. But what we were hearing was your E&O insurance was being targeted. So, property would end up closing, and later you would end up being brought into a lawsuit for something that the seller failed to disclose, that you really would have had no knowledge of. For example, say they lived in a property 30 years, and 30 years ago there was some sort of water damage. They don't remember. There's no way, even if you try to jog their memory, there's no way you would have been able to know. They fail to disclose it, something happens, and then you're on the line. And again, even if you're able to dismiss yourself out, it's still a lawsuit, it's still litigation. And so we worked with the Trial Lawyers Association and said, is there any way to exclude licensees from being pulled in under Chapter 113, which is your SRPD? So we created, we codified in statute that sellers can't, or that agents cannot fill out SRPD, and then also you're not liable under that chapter. You're still liable under your own chapter 645 if it is something that you do know, or you should know.
So Tiffany, let me ask you a little bit about that, because
Okay.
I actually had an ethics CE course yesterday morning.
Yeah.
And we went through some of the stuff in the SRPD, and there was actually quite a bit of confusion in the class. And I hope I can articulate this question, but there's what it says in the NRS, and then there's this form called the SRPD. And a lot of people think that this form is part of the NRS, but it's really just hoping to accomplish what is called for in the NRS for seller disclosure. Is that correct?
So NRS 113 specifically discusses this form, but it also says that the real estate division is the one that creates and updates the form. So it is discussed in the law, but the law actually gives the ability for the creation of the form to be in the hands of the real estate division.
So the reason that there was confusion on that yesterday was because it was this whole issue of whether or not there is an existing condition versus one that happened in the past. And does the seller have to disclose if something happened 20 years ago, but by that point, the wall where the leak was is completely gone now, so to speak? Like, what is the limit there of what the seller has to disclose in the SRPD?
So to me, when I read the SRPD, I think it's clear on the points that are like for water, for example, and I don't have it in front of me, but that's like the first one. It's like if there's ever been any, but other ones are specifically to current issues.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm always of the opinion of disclose. So to me, it doesn't hurt to disclose what you know and say it's been fixed. So say, escrow ended up falling through because there was something wrong with the roof. The seller fixed the roof and now they put it back on the market. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying there was something found to be wrong with the roof that's been repaired. And you don't have to put that necessarily unless it calls for it, because technically there's nothing wrong currently, right, with the roof. But something like water, if there's ever been anything, you have to disclose it. So it's carefully worded in a certain way. So I would look at that. But again, my opinion would be disclose what you know that's been fixed. If you think that, it's been fixed. So then the whole goal of it is so that a buyer purchases something with all of the knowledge that they need to make an informed buy, essentially.
Okay, excellent. So we are down to our last 3 minutes. I can't believe how fast this has gone. I actually have a lot more questions written down for you. Maybe we'll have to get like a second Power 30
Yes,
session going on,
sure.
but in order to be respectful of people's time today and in order to close on time, do you have any parting words? Like, this is like the thing you want us to take away from this and understand from your perspective, anything from the legal perspective?
So from the legal perspective, I would say, as an agent and as a new agent, don't be afraid to ask questions to those more experienced than you, because you're helping. I mean, your clients are making the largest financial decision for most of them of their entire life. And so what we see is newer agents make a lot of mistakes. And I mean, experienced agents do as well, but you utilize your resources, utilize the people around you to ask the questions, utilize the legal information line if you're stuck. Don't feel like, I guess, like, shy or embarrassed that you won't, like, that you don't know what you're doing. You definitely like do what you can to like get yourself up to speed so that you do have the expertise to be able to handle your clients' issues like all the way through from beginning to end. And also read our articles. And we do a ton of articles, like I'm saying, every single week now. We're trying kind of like pumping these articles out. So whatever you have that comes up probably has been asked before. And again, you can call the legal information line, but maybe it's a weekend and you're kind of stressed out. Go to our website, which is, we just changed it, but I think it's NV Realtors, NevadaRealtors.org. Go to our website, look through all the different articles and pages, and be involved. Like, be involved in your business. Like Marcella is a perfect example of somebody that's involved in her association, involved in like what we do. Like, she's part of the decision-making body for that lays out like our agenda for an entire year, or that affects your business, like independent contractor rights. So like, get involved and have a voice. And I think the more involved you get, the more you'll understand, like, wow, this is really cool, like what I have the power in 30 minutes to do. So
Well,
so
I appreciate that because I feel like there are lots and lots of resources that we have from our association, from the Nevada Association, from the division, even our own brokerages,
right.
like, and even within Synergy Community, what we offer, there's all these resources for people, and lots of times people are just completely unaware of those. So the articles that you write, those are posted on your website.
Yeah.
Is that the location to find them?
Yes, that is posted on our website, and is Nevada Realtors with an S.org, and go under Legal Center, and then there's a legal library, video library, articles, and FAQs, and then Code of Ethics.
Okay. Well, we have in our group, Pam Jungi. She does a newsletter every Monday, Monday Matters. And I believe she's been including some of those, but if not, we'll make sure that she is. And we'll also get that out to everybody. So here's what I'd like to propose. We have to wrap up now, but I would propose that Synergy will email me any questions that have arisen from this conversation, and we will compile those questions and get them over to you. And we can either jump back on another Power 30 at a future date, or you can just give us back the answer and we can disseminate that back to our group in some fashion. Because I really do think this is an important topic for our group, and very, very helpful to help us be kind of the top of the class that we want to be as realtors in our industry.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Cody.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Well,
I know you're really busy. It was hard to schedule you. It was really hard to schedule you. So I know you're busy, and we appreciate you taking the time for us. And we have roughly 30 people on today, and it'll be viewed 4 or 5 times that number again by the rest of our group.
thank you. And sorry, yeah, it went by fast. So I'll definitely happy to come back to actually just start right off and go into top 5 or 10 legal hot issues. So
Yeah.
let's
Okay.
do that. Okay.
Sounds good. Thanks
Okay,
again.
have a great day. Okay,
You
bye.
too. Take care.